Have you ever pulled out your 30 or 50 amp plug out of the shore power receptacle and noticed that the plug or shore power socket had signs of burning or melting? This can be a potentially dangerous situation. Why is this happening and how can you prevent it? We have a 50 amp fifth wheel, but most of the time we use this 50 to 30 amp adapter to connect at state and provincial parks, where 50 amp service is very rare. High amp draw appliances like air conditioners, fireplaces, water heaters, and refrigerators can push this 30 amp connection to its limits. The plug and 30 amp breaker were designed for peak 30 amp loads, but in many cases, we may be drawing over 25 amps continuously. If both the plug and the socket are in good condition, there shouldn't be a problem, even with sustained high loads. The problem, most RV 30 amp sockets are not in good condition. Over time, with hundreds of people plugging and unplugging from shore power, the contacts on the inside of the 30 amp TT30 socket like this one begin to deteriorate. The contacts spread out and provide less pressure on the pins. They can become bent, giving uneven contact. They can become corroded from water damage. The surface of the contacts can be damaged from arcing, and they can become dirty from people plugging in dirty plugs. While I was working on this project, I wanted to find a way that actually show and demonstrate arcing inside one of these plugs in improper contact. So I created this plug and I put a load on it, and I have a cutaway of the plug so you can actually see what's going on inside the socket and where the problem is. Even though I was only using about 10 amps for this test, you can see significant arcing going on, and I only loosened those contacts just a little bit. After doing this for just a couple of minutes, the pins had reached over 160 degrees. Your plug can also be part of the problem. Dirty or corroded plugs and bent pins can also degrade the contact between the plug and the socket contacts. This creates resistance in the connection. Under high loads, this resistance causes heat and sometimes arcing at the contact points between the plug pins and the socket contacts. This heat is what melts the plastic on the plug housing like this. This is an RV 30 amp plug. It's a NEMA TT30R. Here's the hot, here's the neutral, and there's the ground. And this is what it looks like from the back. I've taken one of these and I've taken it apart. First of all, I created a cutout on the side here so I could demonstrate what the arcing looked like under load. Basically, I just plugged this in here like this under load, plug it in, and that way when I plugged in here, I could actually show the arcing. Now the other thing, when I pull the cap off here, now you can really see the way the blades from the plug interact with the socket itself. So the ground goes in there like that, and then the two blades, the neutral and the hot, go in there like that. Now when I pull them apart, now you can really see what's going on. These are the socket blades, the way they fit around the pins coming out of the plug. I purposely bent this pin right here with the neutral coming out of the plug, and you can see if it goes into the socket and if it's at an angle like that, you can see it's not going to make as good a contact because it's not flat. So it's really important that all the blades be bent straight before they go into the plug. What can make this worse is sometimes the RV park voltage is lower than it's supposed to be because everyone is using a high amp draw appliance like an air conditioner on a hot day, and the RV park system was not designed for that much load. Your air conditioner still wants its power in watts. What it can't get in volts, it will make up for in amps. At 120 volts, an air conditioner will draw about 1500 watts or about 13 amps. If the voltage drops to 100 volts, then the amp draw is 15 amps instead of 13 amps, which puts the connection under more load. How to prevent this from happening? Keep your plug pins in good condition by cleaning them periodically with a brass brush. The pins are made of brass, so a small brass brush like this one will clean up the dirt, oxidation, and corrosion and damage from arcing. You can pick up a brush set like this one at most hardware stores. It comes with a nylon, a stainless steel, and a brass brush that is small enough to work on 30 and 50 amp plug pins. Here's a plug that got melted, and you can see that there is some corrosion and this surface needs to be cleaned. I'm just going to use my wire brush right here, my brass brush, Just going to clean it. Now that is a lot better. Okay, you can see after just a quick brushing with the brass brush, the pins are all nice and clean again. Check to see if any of the pins are bent. They can get bent easily when storing them or stepping on them. A bent pin will not make good contact in the socket. It should be easy to bend them back straight with your fingers or a pair of pliers because they're made of soft brass. The easiest way to straighten these out is to take a crescent wrench, put it on there, and then bend it straight again. See if the other one's there. Take that and bend it straight. So now all 3 pins are nice and straight. When plugging into shore power, inspect the socket to see if there's previous damage from excess load, surges, or heat. Look for black soot around the socket or signs of melted plastic. If it looks badly damaged, do not plug in. Ask the RV park to replace the socket or give you another site. Test the shore power voltage before plugging in. The 30 amp socket should be between 110 and 120 volts between the hot and the neutral. The 50 amp socket has 2 hots and both should be between 110 and 120 volts between each hot and neutral. This can be done with an inexpensive multimeter. The test leads are about the same width as the plug pin sockets and should fit snugly in the socket. Now this can be dangerous, so only do this if you know how to do it safely. Feel the plug housing periodically while under high loads. If it's hot or very warm, then there's probably an issue with the connection. Unplug it and inspect it to see if there's signs of melting or burning. Use an RV electrical management system, electrical protection device, or surge protector. A good one will automatically cut off the power when the voltage is too low, too high, or a surge is detected, protecting all the RV sensitive electronics. These devices won't eliminate the burning or melting plugs, but will protect your RV from electrical damage caused by poor grid quality. We have a built-in Surge Guard 50. Someday I'll do a video on how we use the Surge Guard to protect our RV. I was trying to come up with a way to clean the contacts inside the 30 amp RV shore power socket. I want to do it safely without damaging the socket contacts. This is a 30 amp male to 15 amp female adapter from Camco. I carved small grooves into the 30 amp pins with a file. The idea is to put this in and out a few times before plugging in the 30 amp shore power to help try to clean up some of the corrosion and dirt inside the contacts of the 30 amp socket. It's also a good way to test fit the plug to make sure it's making a tight fit with the socket contacts. Now this adapter only costs about $8 and it takes about 15 minutes to make the grooves into the soft brass pins. It should not damage the socket pins because the brass is so soft. Now here are the grooves that I've carved into the blade, and I just basically used a triangular file and I've carved those grooves into the blade. Now what that's going to do is going to create some surface so that when it goes into the plug right here, it basically will create some friction and be able to help clean up those contacts if they've gotten dirty or corroded over time. Here's a view of the blades, one with the notches and one without the notches, so you can see what they look like before and after. Luckily for us, only our 30 to 50 amp adapters have been damaged and are easily and inexpensively replaced. If the plug at the end of your 30 or 50 amp cord is damaged, you will need to replace the plug, since replacing the entire cord would be very expensive. Cutting off the damaged end of the plug and replacing it with a new one is not that difficult and much less costly. They are available on Amazon and most places that sell RV parts. Have you experienced a melted or burned 30 or 50 amp plug? What did you do to prevent it? Please share your experience in the comments section below. You can also comment on our Facebook and Instagram pages. We do lots of RV DIY projects like this, campground tours, product reviews, and of course, full-time RV travel experiences. If you like that kind of content, please consider subscribing by clicking this link below. It would really help us out. I will also leave a link right over here for something for you to check out next. And remember, downsizing does make sense.